Hi, I'm Monty McKinnon. Thank you for joining me today. Just the way of a quick update, I just want to show you that we are working on the top and it's coming along just fine. It's got a beautiful dome on it from the jigs that we use to put the proper radius on this. This is going to be really great. So we got more work to do on that. But I received an email from Richard, and Richard wanted to know about building a bridge or changing a bridge around, and I thought, you know what, we need to examine some of the jigs that I use up close for making a bridge. Now, you've seen me in the previous, I've got 2 videos up, so if you put my name in and just put after that bridge, 2 videos will come up. You can watch those. I'll try to put a link at the end of this. But this is the first jig. Now this is simply a design on a piece of plywood. If I get my hands to stop shaking long enough. And all I've done is carve this here. I take a flat piece of wood and I put it in here, and this one's already shaped. I run it around on the router table, but you've got to be careful because I like to start in the middle, come down here and start here, and then I go right across afterwards. But make sure you've got this secure when you're using a router table. And having a router table with the bit exposed up makes me very nervous, so I pay very careful attention to 2 tools in this shop. One is that router with the bit extended, and the other, of course, is the table saw. Because, you know, if you get something caught in that, it comes off at about 90 miles an hour. That'll go right through you, so you always stand to the side as you're pushing wood through. Anyway, that's not what this is about. So this here, you can make any design you want along here, and then this is simply a square piece that I've got screwed onto the top to allow for the back of the bridge, or actually it's going to be the front, to push up flat against this to be able to give me the shape that I need. Now this thing measures out, it's basically 5.5 inches by 8 inches. And obviously the top piece is, you know, about 3 3/4 inches, and obviously about 8. Now these clamps are available at Rockler or Home Hardware. They're available at Home Depot, Lowe's. You can get these things pretty well anywhere. They're also on Amazon. And nobody sponsors me, so I'm just telling you this is to help you figure out where you can get this stuff. So it's pretty good. And once you've got that, okay, we've got that all done. The next thing we want to do is cut the slot. Now, this monstrosity is the slot cutting jig. Now, these came from Rockler, and what you'll see is that this would go into here like so. I then wedge that in with a piece of wood so that it won't move, and the router sits between this piece and this piece here and just slides back and forth. Now, this is a block so that the router won't go beyond that, and because I was using a square router, so this was squared off, so it just go back and forth on a square. But now the base of my router is round, so I have rounded this out so that the router will fit here. And these lines in here, which are 70 millimeters apart, this is 35, that's how wide the slot is. So the slot, you'll put the router down using a plunge router, slide it along, let it come up, and you're done. Now, just to give you a little idea of the dimensions of this little puppy, the base is 10 inches square. And then what I have on top of that, because I need a trough for this to fit in. This has to be down below because the router sits on here with the bit down into here. So this piece and this piece, I'll give you those measurements. This one, by the way, my mentor came up with this design. This is not my design, but it sure works well. I did make these, are 5 1/4 by the 10 inches. So that's this piece. This piece down below is 2 inches by 10 inches. So I now know that I've got this set so that it brings me up level with this. I want these 2 pieces here to be level because I don't want the router sitting cockeyed like that. I want it straight so it's going back and forth. So now I need a guide for the router. So what I've done is I've got this board on top here with some slots. This allows me to angle and make the adjustment that I need to make in order to get this on an angle. Now, we know that it's about a 3mm offset on the one side. So what you have to do is take a guitar that you have, or you can look up these measurements. I don't recall what they are right offhand, but you measure this end, and you'll see that there's a slot here and here. Again, that moves back and forth. This moves back and forth in order to get this so that when you have this, the router we're going to cut this on an angle. So we want this piece in here and this piece over here. This is going to be wider than it is on this end. So that allows us to do this by putting this here. We can adjust this, tighten it down, and then if we need to, we can adjust it here, because we'll set the router on here. We'll get the pin from the router, the actual router bit down in where it needs to go. We'll make sure we've got that straight. And then this, of course, is my guide as far as the router will run. So I don't make any more adjustments to this. This is all set. This piece of wood adjusts for the piece that goes in here, which is going to be your bridge. And the reason for that is it's slotted so that I can make sure that I'm lined up here and here exactly where I want this to be. And again, 70mm across here, 35 in the middle, and then this is on a bit of an angle. So what you'll do is you'll transfer the angle of this to this piece, and then you'll adjust this piece in order for it to fit your router, so that you want your router tight into here. You don't want it moving back and forth. You want to get it solid in here, slide that in, go to the other end here and do the same thing, and make sure you sneak up on it, get this nice and tight so that nothing moves. So that's how we end up using this to cut the slot. Now, once we have the slot cut, what we do is we come to this particular set of jigs here. Now, this is the one that we're going to use to cut the particular holes, and they are 57mm apart. So the first thing I do is I mark on here front, which is the front piece that's going on the guitar, right? It's coming across here. My saddle is in here, and I get that in there like so. I then take these and I, just like the other one, I wedge them in so that they're in there nice and snug. This is my stop. Here's my 70mm running from here to here. I've measured that off. There's 35. There's the end of this particular bridge, and I believe that is 6 or 6.5 inches. It's 6.5 inches. The base on this jig is exactly 10 inches by 7.5, and this piece here up in here is 2 3/4 by the obviously 10 inches running from there to there. This piece is 8.5 inches by 2.5 inches. So that's the size and the dimensions of the jig. Again, this is just a stop block to make sure that I don't go past this 70 points. So we'll call this 0, and this is 70, and this is 35. Now, we've got that all wedged in. What we do next is we come to this jig, which is again on an angle because we want the holes on the bridge to follow the line of the saddle. We don't want this straight across here. We want it to be on the same length as the saddle. So what happens is that same dimension that you had here for angling the front of the bridge to the, I'll call this the 0 point at the, let's see, that would be the treble, this will be the bass. What's going to happen is we want that angle transferred to this board here. I hope I'm not confusing you with all of this, Richard, but this is the way it is. Again, slotted so that you can adjust the position, and then this is slotted to adjust this back and forth, because what will happen is we will take this and we will place that there. We then align up our drill press with the line that we're going to draw across here where the holes are going to go, and we make sure that we've got it all drawn across here like so. So we've got a grid on here, and we know where the center of these holes will be. So what this happens with this now, and these little blocks are the next part of the jig. These are exactly 57 millimeters in thickness. So when I put the one block in here, I drill the first hole. The second hole is going in at 57. The next one, when I put the next block in, it's going at 114. And then the next block, and so on and so forth, until I get them all in there. And I'm right down to the far end here. So I know that I have the spacing done on these holes perfectly, 57 millimeters apart. I've got them on the right angle, and I've used the right bit. It's a 9 millimeter to 6 millimeter is the depth here to get this properly lined up. But that's what you do. And again, we've got the stop here, and I've got the stop here. So this slides back and forth because the drill press is over top of this, and I simply drill it. It makes it really simple. Now, one more jig, and you've seen me use all of these jigs, and you'll see me use them again because we're closing in on the top. This is simply a bridge, and we have cut off the wings here. I've got the saddle slot in here, so I put a saddle in there because at some point I'm going to want to take this and I'm going to want to sand this, and I'll put a piece of sandpaper on top of the guitar, and then I'm going to go like this back and forth until I get the same curvature that's on the top of the guitar on the bottom here. So I know that this is going to fit flat and tight to the top of the guitar, and everything is going to look just grand. So that's a handy little jig. This is my handle for it. I was using it without that for years, but this makes it a whole lot easier. So there we have it today. We've got a whole bunch of jigs that we use to make a bridge. I hope that clarifies things for you. Check out the other two videos that I have so that you'll see how these are actually made. And we'll hopefully you'll be able to do it. I know you'll be able to do it. Of course you can do it. And it'll all work out. Try it on an experimental piece of wood first and just make sure you got all your measurements set up right and your adjustments right. But this is a great way of doing it. There are other jigs that you can buy. So there you go. I wish somebody would sponsor me for my tea, which is what I'm about to enjoy. This is my English breakfast decaf today, and boy do I need it. So thank you for joining me. Hit the links down below. Take a look at them. Hit the subscribe button if you'd be so kind. Give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.